Hello, and welcome to my first real JTOH video. So, I figured we'd start something basic. Today, I'll be ranking every Ring 1 tower. I suppose not in the way most people do it. I'll actually give a reason for every ranking and talk about it, and compare the towers. And I will be showing a tier list after every single time I rank it, so some towers will be C tier, B tier, D tier, whatever. That's really all there is to say. This area has a lot of classic towers, but they're all pretty good, so I honestly found it pretty hard to rank them because they're all of similar quality. So I hope you guys enjoy, and let's get into the rank. While none of the towers in this area I really hate, nor are they that terrible, but Tower of Stress is definitely the worst due to my personal experience and the tower's subpar gameplay. Well, I think none of the towers, they're not, any of them are that awful, but if you actually look at this tower, it's, I mean, the branching path thing they do is pretty cool. The music is kind of banging, like every Ring 1 tower. The branching parts on floor 3, like I said, are pretty cool. The difficulty spike on 7 is pretty bad. The gameplay is just pretty normal, like classic gameplay. And the big trust jump is pretty creative and funny. I don't know, I really hate that one. Yeah, anything to talk about the rest of this tower? Floor 1 can become a slog due to it being really boring. I know this because, we'll get into the experience later. A lot of the, difficulty comes from floor 7, so failing that a lot becomes really bad, especially when you're trying to do this as your first challenging. What the hell was I about to say? Sorry about that. Yeah, so the thing with this tower is that my experience with it, the reason it's at 13 and below all the other kind of worst towers, is that when I first played the game back in December of 2020, I beat every tower up to keyboard yeeting, but I literally quit on and off for 2 years over the Tower of Stress. So therefore I'm obligated not to enjoy it as much, so it can enjoy its last place at 13. Anyways, this tower is probably C tier. The next tower at number 12 is Tower of Anger. This is, just the basic second easy tower of the game. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it can be kind of boring, but it's like that for every easy tower. I remember when I first played it, it was pretty fun, just to do as your second after Toast, to be more, I guess, familiar with the game. It's a classic low mid-easy tower, there's not much to say. It was a good experience for beginners, though. And it has that Ring 1 charm that most Ring 1 towers have. It's just not amazingly fun to do over again, unless you're speedrunning, I guess. I think it's good for beginners. There's nothing wrong with it. I like the stairs to the wind pad and the sparkle platforms. Those are cool. Once again, the music is good. And that's pretty much all I have to say. I like that one part where the box. Number 11, Tower of Madness. Boy, oh boy, is this tower overhated. It's realistically not even all that bad. The tower opens with a yellow floor, introducing wraparounds to the player. Then they have a lot of tight kill bricks, teaching the players about actual health management, different from just walking past kill bricks, of course. The skips are pretty fun as well. 9 and 10 could use actual gameplay, but I think the victory lap works fine. I like this tower's colors. All the Ring 1 tower colors are actually pretty good though. Anyways, onto the floor everyone talks about, floor 5. While kind of bad, it's not as terrible as other people say. It's like low hard difficulty spike at most. And if you fail anything other than the first 2 jump, it nets you anything anyways. I mean, I seriously don't get the problem with this floor. It could be perceived as kind of boring because you have to walk around the frame and a little confusing, but people will figure it out eventually. And the nature of JTOH is that it can just be a confusing game at points, and you might have to look at the guide to figure it out. And that's all I really have to say. It just has classic gameplay, once again, has the Ring 1 aesthetic to it, and it's just a good tower, I guess. Tower of Screen Punching. And I think it's good. This would be higher up in any other ring. The problem is, this is a Ring 1 ranking video, so it is ending up low. I like the branching path thing on floor 1, like Tower of Stress. I quite enjoy a lot of the tower's colors and music. The traps are pretty bad, and this tower has a lot of, like, thinner falling platforms and run studs. I think the green thing on floor, whatever floor that is, I think it's like floor 5, can be pretty confusing to new players, because they don't know to jump at the end or to, like, climb up the trusses, and I think that's really, really weird. I definitely think it's an odd choice from the tower, but I guess at the time JTOH was a rage game, so it kind of makes sense. Anyways, other than that, all the other gameplay of the tower is pretty, like, good. It works well. It's a fun tower to do as, like, your second to first challenging, depending on when you beat Tower of Stress. And that's really all I have to say about Tower of Screen Punching. It is a C+. On to when the list gets, like, pretty good towers. It kind of feels weird putting this tower so low, actually, due to how much I actually do really like it. It's just objectively a little worse than the ones above it. While it's pretty fun and charming, it just doesn't have much, like, that puts it above everything else. The ice floor is, like, pretty bad, but other than that, you know, the purple floor, it's a pretty cool floor. The black outside, like on that one, that's pretty good outside. And the orange floor is definitely really weird, because it's just a floor with one big spinner in the middle and, like, 6 jumps, but it's pretty nice. And, you know, the first few floors, they're just the iconic keyboard yeeting stuff. I think they're pretty good, like, first 3 floors. You'll remember that if you're thinking about Tower of Keyboard Yeeting. I feel like this tower is also pretty underrated in the way it introduces, like, more hard wraps for players as well, like the stick outs and the long jumps in Ring 1. Anyways, when I first beat this back in the day, in, like, 2020, I was very, very happy. And this tower is very rewarding to beat, and it also has the cool snakes. So, there's not much else to say. It's just all around a good tower. The tutorial tower, of course, but it's a pretty fun tower to replay, and I don't think it's an awful tutorial like everyone says. It teaches them everything they need to know to play classic JTOH, and everything else you kind of figure out along the way. The obstacles are pretty cool and decent for a new player. It's not that terrible of a tower. The main thing I like about this tower is that it's so skippable, and you don't have to do long things on the super long sections. That's pretty good. This is just a fun playthrough and a pretty iconic tower with, once again, some pretty iconic banger music on some floors. So there's not much else to say. It's just toast. It's the first tower in the game, and it is pretty good. Rage. This tower isn't as bad as people say it is. I've said that about a lot of the towers on this list. It's just, I keep having to say it because people hate on these towers a lot, and I'm trying to defend their names because I like them. But, it probably would be higher if not for it just fading into the background of Ring 1. Like, I don't know who genuinely thinks about it when Ring 1 is brought up, unless that's just me. But it has alright gameplay. The design looks nice. It's actually pretty creative for a Ring 1 tower. The floor 10 tightropes are pretty bad, though. But realistically, I don't think they're that bad. But I really don't like that one shadow jump on whatever floor that was. I think I failed that like 5 times my first time beating this. A lot of the skips are pretty cool, and it's cool to speedrun. The 4-4 like spinner section, where you have to like go around the cylinder, and you can also skip the GBJ section, is pretty cool. And when I think about this tower, I kind of think about it as the Ring 1 tower that had a whole lot of spinners. Also, the music on this one is really nice, as it like, I guess it kind of contributes to the retro kind of vibe that Ring 1 towers have going in them. It's very old, you know what I'm saying? So. For number 6, we have the Tower of Impossible Expectations. This tower is a pretty good tower. Floor 1 is alright, and it's like pretty iconic. You have the kill bricks on the floor and the giant pyramid that you climb up to, even though it is short. Floor 2 is also a pretty good floor, and it's pretty iconic. 3 is just, it's pretty cool. The whole tower is cool, really. And the part of floor 5, I think it's floor 5, where you roll on the kill brick walls, is also nice. I really don't know why people complain about outside 8 outside. It's like low intense. This tower does have one really bad part, that part being the kill brick maze on 9. It just feels like a time waster and accomplishes nothing in the actual tower at all. Luckily, this tower ends up making up for its flaws just by being a cool tower. I can't believe people thought this was humanly impossible though. I mean, it's like easy. I don't know if that's crazy to say, but I don't know how people couldn't do it. On to the next. I personally think that this tower is great, and I can't really go ahead and put it in A tier, and yes, that's a spoiler. I feel like this tower is really good for whatever reason. It's the only wacky frame in Ring 1, and also the most modern tower there. Luckily, it still fits with Ring 1, because it's just classic enough to be fitting. Its gameplay is unique and pretty interesting for a Ring 1 tower, and introduces client objects not used in Toast. The way this tower kind of feels like an adventure is cool, especially in the part where you go to Neat, and you teleport around the tower a lot, and go to the descending part. When you're first beating this as one of your first cards, it does really feel like you're doing something, like a little bit more than a tower. Speaking of things that are neat, I do like the way this tower introduces nets to the player, so they can finally understand what those are, because players, you know, I know it's not hard to understand what a net is, but they are used in a lot of towers nowadays, so that's all I have to say about Tower of Killjoys. This was the original tower to be added, and for being the original, it's actually pretty good. This may be odd for some to see above Killjoys, but I honestly feel like it's a lot better. Not a lot, but you know, by a little. Anyways, I probably do the 4x4 thing that I did for every tower. Yeah, the gameplay on this is really fun to speedrun, and floor 2 is one of the most memorable floors in a tower for me for whatever reason, even though it really does nothing. Floor 3, I don't know, it's just a good floor. I like Tower's Gradient for some reason, I don't know why. Floor 4, it has the GOAT song, so you can't really be dissing it. Anyways, yeah, this tower is pretty good. And when you beat it as your first hard, the final floors feel very like climactic and scary if you're new. Anyways, the history of this tower is definitely the main thing that's cool about it, because imagine back in the old days of the Obbian community when people thought they couldn't beat this, and imagine how someone felt when they beat this without even knowing about any of the traps. So basically, this is pretty fun. And it's high up because it has a lot of history and it's fun to speedrun, and it had such an impact on the community. And this is a B+ tier. This tower had really enjoyable gameplay for me, so I just put it here. The reason that the gameplay is good is pretty indescribable, so I'll just try my best The nature of the jumps on this tower, I think, just makes it fun to play. Wraparounds are just good. They're just good gameplay. It can be beat, but they're one of the best forms, and there's nothing wrong with them, and it's pretty good. And another reason this is so high is because I feel like it's better than all the other towers below it, just in the way it's more fun. It may be my personal bias, but I don't really care, because this video is opinionated after all, so it's fine. Ah, yes, the tower that I suffered through, I think, like 5 revamps now, but that may have been less, I'm not sure though. This tower is actually, after the, so many revamps, it's a very, very good SC option. And, in my opinion, it's also very, very good, hence it being at number 2. Ever since they added better gameplay to the first 6 floors, this has become a really enjoyable tower. Stack that on top of the last 4 floors, it makes for a really great experience. This tower is just classic baseline insane gameplay, but it's still really good for whatever reason and feels innovative. The wrap gameplay in the last 4 floors are really good, and I don't know, they're just great. And the tower crossings are creative and they're a well done concept. Going back to all the Ring 1 towers while you're doing the hardest one in the area feels really cool and is really cool. The final few floors also feel really nerve-wracking and intense, making for a cool experience. The giant floor 5 spinner is really cool, and the thing on floor 1 where you have to get 5 buttons is definitely one of the most iconic sections of every tower. May I say though, if there is one thing that's wrong with this tower, it is definitely floor 2 outside. That outside sucks. But other than that, everything about this tower is really good. That's my final pick, my number 1 pick. It's going to be the Citadel of this area. A lot of people have this as their number 1, and that's for a good reason. And that's exactly why I have it as my number 1 too. It just feels like a massive adventure. And the first floors of the Citadel may feel a bit like, they kind of feel slow, honestly. That's the best way to put it. Everything else, it's just decent, like really good gameplay. Especially first time, like Ring 1, it just feels feels pretty cool. Yeah, that's the best you can say. It also just encapsulates that Ring 1 feel like every other tower. And the Ring 1 feel is just a good feel. Can't really describe it. I've been like this for all the towers in this video. The final floors are just super intense and cool as well. Like the middle of the Citadel is like cool, but the final floors are awesome. Like I don't know. They're just great. And the second to last and third floor, especially, because they are just really difficult and they build up the hype for the end. And I feel like I may be biased on this because this tower does have way more enjoyability if you do it at an intense skill level, but I don't really care because I mean it's a video of ranking towers in a game. Of course it's gonna end up being subjective. Anyways, there's not much else to say about Coles. It's just great, you know. And I just suppose I'll be wrapping up the video now. Obviously, it was all through interpretation. If you disagree, you can comment below. And this is my first serious video. I hope you found it enjoyable, and I will be uploading more content like this in the future.